What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. In this video I'm going to show you how to replace the rear shocks on this 2010 Toyota Rav4. If you need this part or other parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description, head over to 1aauto.com. I'm going to remove the wheel. I'm using a 21mm socket and an air gun. If you don't have an air gun, you can remove it on the ground with a breaker bar before you raise the vehicle up. Now, wheel wasn't too difficult to get off. If you do have trouble getting it off, you can just put a lug nut on there and hit the back of the tire with a hammer. Generally that gets them off. All right, so I'm gonna use a screw jack underneath this lower control arm. I wanna support the arm so that when I take this shock off, the coil spring's gonna be okay. It's not gonna spring down or anything. So that's just gonna take the tension off the shock. Now I can take these two bolts out. Now the shock is attached to this bracket and you would think you would be able to take this bolt out, but because of the lower control arm being in the way, this bolt actually won't come out. So we have to take this bracket off, and then once the bracket's off and out of the way, we can take that bolt out. All right, so the top part of the bracket attaches to the knuckle. So I'm just gonna spray where the bolts go through just with some rust penetrant. Let that soak for a little bit. That'll make the bolts coming out a little easier. So while I'm spraying that down with rust penetrant, I'm just gonna spray the top part down. The top part of the shock bolt and the nut right on this side. So we'll let that soak for a little bit, just to make it a little easier removing it. All right, so I'm gonna take a 17mm socket extension and a breaker bar. I'm gonna loosen these bolts up. All right, got those a little bit loose. Just use an air gun to remove them the rest of the way. Pull those bolts out. All right, so I'm gonna loosen up this bolt right here. Just use a 17mm wrench. Try to get it to break free first. Not coming off too easily. Try to get the wrench on the nut. Might have to use a pipe on the wrench. All right. Loosen this up. Yeah, that worked a little bit. Now, I happen to have a ratchet wrench on the other side. All right, so now it's loose enough. I can take this wrench off and try to get the nut off, get the bolt out. Just hard to get in here. There's not a lot of room. All right, there we go. Got the nut off. So I'm going to support the shock as I pull this bolt out. And able to get the bolt out. And you just pull the shock, pull it right down. I'm going to use a 17mm wrench on the back side of this bolt because we want to take this bracket off, and I'll use a 17mm socket and an air gun to remove the nut. Pull that off. Slide the bolt out. Now keep in mind the way that you take this apart, because you want to take the new shock and install it the same way. Here's the old part. Here's the new rear shock from 1aauto.com. The bushings are the same. It has a similar sleeve. Ours is metal. The shock is the same size. It just comes shipped like this. What you can do is to remove this, just push down, just slide that to the side, and the shock will extend. And then it'll be the same size as the old one. Get yours at 1aauto.com and you'll be ready to rock and roll. take the shock, install it the same way we just took the old one out. Remember, the sleeve part is going to be at the top. And the bolt came from this side. Slide that in position. You want to position it the same way it was when it came out. Take that nut. Use a 17mm wrench, 17mm socket in the gun, and I'm just going to snug this up for now. And we can torque it when it's on the vehicle. All right, now position the shock back how it came out. You may have to twist this a little bit and slide that in position. Just like that. And you take the bolt, slide the bolt through. There we go. And take the nut, get the nut started. Before I tighten all those bolts and nuts down, I want to get this bracket lined up. So you could actually loosen up this bolt if you're not getting it to line up too well. So just take a socket, 17mm socket, take those bolts, an extension, just get these started. Muscle those into position. Now I'm just going to use an air gun, snug these up. Now I'll take a 17mm wrench, try to get on this nut. Actually, I'm going to use the open side of the wrench because I don't want it to get stuck on there. And then use a ratchet wrench on the inside and tighten this up. This is gonna take a while. All right, now it's tightened down. I'm just gotta do my best to tighten this. I'm not gonna be able to fit a torque wrench in there. If I was, you'd wanna torque it to 59 foot-pounds. So just do the best you can. Now we're going to tighten this lower shock bolt. I'm going to use a 17mm wrench right here, and then a 17mm socket and torque wrench. Torque this to 59 foot-pounds. Good. We can remove the screw jack and put the wheel back on, and we're good to go. Now I'm going to reinstall the tire. Take the lug nuts, install the lug nuts. Now I'm going to use a 21mm socket and a torque wrench. I'm torquing these lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds, and I'm going to do it in a star pattern. That way that the wheel gets tightened down evenly. I'll just go around again, just make sure. Good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts shipped to your door, the place for DIY auto repair. And if you enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button.